The history of torture spans millennia and includes many horrific methods used across various civilizations. Worsted refers to a type of yarn or fabric and seems to be a miswording. If you meant worst, I'll proceed with that assumption. Here is a detailed look at some of the oldest and most brutal torture techniques known in human history, many of which were developed as means of punishment, interrogation, or control. Flaying, skinning alive, ancient Assyria, Persia, and medieval. Europe. The victim's skin was methodically removed from the body, often starting at the feet or hands and working upward. This excruciating method was sometimes used in public executions as a warning, purpose punishment for treason or severe crimes, symbolic degradation. Impalement. Ancient Mesopotamia, later used by Vlad the Impaler, 15th century Wallachia. A sharpened stake was inserted through the body, often rectally or vaginally, and the person was hoisted upright. Death could take hours or days. Purpose: extreme punishment to instill terror. The Brazen Bull. Ancient Greece, Sicily, 6th century BCE, a hollow bronze bull where the victim was placed inside and roasted alive over a fire. Pipes were designed to convert the screams into bull-like sounds. Purpose: execution and public spectacle. Crucifixion. Assyrians, Persians, later adopted by Romans. Victims were nailed or tied to a cross and left to die over hours or days, due to shock, exposure, or asphyxiation. Purpose: public deterrence, commonly used for slaves and rebels. Scaphism. The boats. Ancient Persia. The victim was trapped between two boats or hollowed logs, force-fed milk and honey, and covered in the same mixture to attract insects. Left floating on stagnant water, the body was slowly consumed by insects. Purpose: psychological and physical torment, used for traitors. The rack. Ancient Greece and Rome, later widespread in medieval Europe, a victim's limbs were tied to rollers at either end of a frame. Turning the rollers stretched the body, dislocating joints and tearing muscles. Purpose: extract confessions or punish heretics. Chinese death by 1,000 cuts. Lingchi. Imperial China, 10th century onward. The condemned was slowly dismembered, over time, sometimes starting with limbs and ending with the head. Purpose: reserved for traitors or parasites. Symbolic and excruciating. Iron Maiden, believed to be from medieval Germany, though possibly mythologized, a coffin-like iron cabinet lined with interior spikes. When closed, the spikes pierced the victim without instantly killing them. Purpose: intimidation and torture, though many historians believe this may have been a later invention or hoax. The pair of anguish. Medieval Europe, a metal device inserted into the mouth, anus, or vagina. A screw mechanism expanded the device, tearing internal tissue. Purpose: punishment of heretics, homosexuals, or women accused of witchcraft. Cant. Foot roastings used during the Spanish Inquisition. The soles of the feet were exposed to fire or hot irons while the victim was restrained. Purpose: forced confessions. Cause: prolonged agony. These ancient methods represent some of the worst examples of how cruelty was institutionalized in human history. While many are no longer in use, the study of these practices helps illuminate how human rights concepts developed in response to such inhumane acts. Here's a continuation with more historic torture methods, highlighting even more disturbing techniques used in ancient and medieval times, further illustrating the extremes to which societies have gone to punish or extract information. The Judas cradle, cradle of Judah, medieval Europe, likely used. During the Spanish Inquisition, the victim was placed naked above a pyramid-shaped seat. The point was inserted into the anus or vagina, and the person was slowly lowered using ropes. The weight of their own body caused extreme pain and internal injury. Purpose: extract confessions or punish dissent. The Heretics' Fork Inquisition era. Europe. A metal rod with two forks on either end, placed between the chin and chest, and throat, preventing any movement of the head. Purpose: prevent sleep or communication. Used in religious torture. Boiling ancient Rome and later medieval England victims were boiled alive in oil, water, or tar. In England, this was briefly made a legal punishment under King Henry VIII. Purpose: executions for poisoners and traitors. Breaking wheel, Catherine wheel, ancient Greece and widespread in medieval Europe. The victim was tied to a large wheel and limbs were shattered with hammers. Sometimes the broken body was left on display until death. Purpose: public execution with maximum suffering. Thumb screws, Middle Ages, a simple vice that crushed fingers or thumbs by turning screws. Purpose: pain infliction to extract information or punish petty crimes. Tongue-tierer European Inquisitions, a tongue-like instrument used to grasp and rip out the tongue, used on those who spoke blasphemy or insulted authority. Purpose: mutilation to silence or deter speech. Head crusher European. Medieval torture chambers. The chin was placed on a metal bar, and a cap was lowered to slowly crush the skull and teeth. Purpose: interrogation and execution. Rat torture, used by multiple regimes including ancient China and later by European inquisitors. A cage with a rat was placed on the victim's abdomen. Heat or fire forced the rat to burrow into the body to escape. Purpose: interrogation via psychological and physical horror. Sawing in half-ancient Persia, Rome, and reportedly used in parts of Asia, the victim was hung upside down, and a saw was used to cut them vertically from the groin downward. Hanging upside down ensured prolonged consciousness due to blood flow to the brain. Purpose: extreme punishment, often for betrayal or religious crimes. Buried alive, used by many civilizations. Romans, Chinese, European witch trials. Victims were placed in a coffin or hole and buried, often alive. In some cases, air was allowed in to prolong suffering. Purpose: both symbolic and fatal punishment, sometimes used for women accused of infidelity or witchcraft. These torture methods reflect the dark lengths humans have gone to enforce authority, silence opposition, or carry out justice. While many of these methods were officially abolished with the advent of modern human rights standards, e.g., the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, they serve as grim reminders of humanity's capacity for cruelty.